When Jesus Christ returns, no one knows. What we do know is at that time it will be too late. Destinies of every man and woman will be set when Christ returns. In other words, where you will spend eternity, forever. Because we were made in the likeness of God. And because of that, we will live forever after death. In one of two places, heaven or hell. You may have heard people say that they're happy to go to hell because that's where all their friends will be. Sadly, this bears no reflection to reality. The Bible is clear that hell is a dreadful place where people will be separated not only from God but from everyone else. It is a place of anguish and of pain and loneliness where your desires are never satisfied. Though we don't know when Jesus will return, we do know from Jesus what the last days will be like, and that he will return immediately after these days. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus was asked by his disciples what would be the signs of the end of the age. He told them in verse 37, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. That is, that the things that were happening in Noah's day will be like what will be happening just prior to the Lord's return. Let's look briefly then at what was going on then, before later comparing that with what is happening today, the state of the world today. There are 7 characteristics of the days of Noah. Number 1, there was a huge increase in the population. Genesis chapter 6 tells us that men began to multiply. Number 2, marriage vows were taken lightly. Verse 2 says they married any of them they chose. There was an increase in polygamy. Number 3, the focus of man was in seeking pleasure. It's an emphasis in satisfying the physical appetites of man for food, for sex, for pleasure. An emphasis on the external beauty in the wives that were chosen. This, of course, is what we see today. And it will be true of the end times. 2 Timothy 3 in verse 1 says, there will be terrible times in the last days. And verse 4 says that people will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Number 4, the earth was filled with violence. Number 5, the moral climate was one of wickedness. People practiced those things that were contrary to God's loving nature. They had lost the image of God and had become wicked, vile, mischievous and hurtful. Number 6, mankind had lost his way and become corrupt. Now the word corrupt means decay or rot or ruin. Man had corrupted himself to such an extent, such a degree that he'd lost his way spiritually and made himself unfit for the purpose for which he had been created, which is to worship God. And so number 7, the spiritual climate was one of darkness. All man thought about was evil all the time. Genesis 6 verse 3 tells us that because of this, God gave man 120 years before he would judge the earth with a global flood. Because God is holy, perfect, without sin, he has to judge man's sin. What is happening today, God will not ignore. He will once again bring judgment to the earth. The question is, are you ready?